Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. No, it's not a railway one today. That's actually the line heads out of the town of Frome, where I am today here in Somerset. Goes on to, yes, that one I can't pronounce again, Watley or Waitley Colliery. It used to continue on to the Somerset town, Bainstown now, of Radstock as well. Doesn't do that now, of course, and it's still open for freight trains carrying limestone out of the quarry from here in Somerset on the edge of the Conduit Hill. So yeah, Frome's about a couple of miles away from where we are. I'll put in some maps now to show you exactly where we are. So why am I here if I'm not doing railways? Well, it's another one in my Looking for a Lost Canal series, and today for the first time we're going to be looking at what we can find of the remains of the little known Dorset and Somerset Canal. In fact, the main spine of the canal was never built, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the history of it shortly. And what I'll be doing today, it's not going to be a continuous walk because it's over different sections and there's lots of features scattered left over from the engineering of a wide area. But we're looking at the Frome Branch, the only part of the canal that was ever built, which struck out here from the town of Frome into the hinterland of the Mendips to serve, yes, you've guessed it, the collieries of the area. The canal, in fact, was never opened, but I'm led to understand there's still a surprising amount of engineering to see. So hopefully we'll be able to uncover that again here on another Looking for a Lost Canal adventure on West Country Wanderings. So we've come to what is, I think, our first part of the remnants of the Frome arm of the Dorset and Somerset Canal. The town of Frome is over there, and I don't think that the canal got any further than this part here. So you're probably thinking, well, what is there to see here? Well, you can actually just make out a tiny depression in the ground through the trees, which is just over there. I'll do a clip of that now so you can see that. But that's not the engineering feature that we've come to look at. It's this embankment wall, which is just to the right of me. It's huge. And that was there to support that, or stop that bank where the trees are above there and the railway line beyond that. Of course, don't forget the railway line and all the infrastructure of that was built long after the canal closed. In fact, the canal never really opened. So where we see the railway line crossing over the canal, there would be made no provision for that because the railway ploughed in over the top of the canal, yeah, long after it was being built, so there's no record of that. But yeah, so here we've got this depression here. Let's have a closer look at this wall though before I tell you a little bit more about this, how this canal came about and what the plans and the purpose for the canal were. So this is our huge wall here, absolutely massive, isn't it? And it goes on further that way, so it probably goes on, I'm not too sure actually, probably for 200 metres that side where it's closer to the railway. Don't forget the railway came after the canal. It's much lower, and as it extends across the valley here, it increases in height. We're close to the Mells River, not that far from the village of Mells, but we won't be going to Mells today. We'll be going to a place called Vobster. So what was this canal all about? Well, the plan was to link the port of Bristol to the port of Poole. Bristol, of course, off the River Avon, the tidal River Avon, large city north of Somerset, south of Gloucestershire. Poole in Dorset. Dorset, of course, sits right on the English Channel. So lots of businessmen in 1792 thought it would be advantageous to have a canal to link Bristol to Poole, to get trade coming up through the English Channel, bringing it right into the heart of Bristol, rounding all the way around Land's End. And the route would have been via various places, including Wareham, somewhere I do hope to go in Dorset soon, and places like Sturminster, Newton, and then via Westbury and Frome, and then going on up to join the River Avon. Now, suddenly none of that came about, but a couple of years after embryonic discussions with those businessmen, there was a meeting held in the town of Wincanton here in Somerset. Now, raising capital to finance this canal proved tricky. At that meeting at the end of 1793 in Wincanton were a couple of people from the Somersetshire coalfields, and of course later on they had their own canal, the Somersetshire Coal Canal, very profitable and successful canal. We've done a couple of videos of that here on West Country Wanderings, and we'll return to the Somersetshire Coal Canal. It's early in the morning on a Wednesday morning here, so yeah, so excuse me if I'm a little time-tied. So I'll link to those videos at the end of this one. Robert Whitworth did a survey of the route from Bristol right down to Poole. However, he found it was going to be problematic around the southern end, in the Dorset end of the canal, getting landowners' permission. The other problem, of course, was raising capital. But with the discussions of those colliery owners at a place called Nettlebridge, more about which later in today's video, thought that they could build the branch first, which is quite an unusual thing to do, rather than the main spine, because they thought that would be profitable in serving the needs of the colliery owners in the Nettlebridge area, and that would raise capital to enable the rest of the canal to be built. So that's what they decided to do. However, it was not at all straightforward. Now, Robert Whitworth was busy trying to design and plan and survey other routes of canals, more important than the ones, what he felt, than the one here in Somerset to connect Dorset up to Bristol. So he suggested someone else, someone local, who was also a surveyor, who could be of assistance to the people that were interested in getting this canal together. And that person was William Bennett, right here from the town of Frome, right here in Somerset. And again in 1793 he did some more work planning the route. He also planned to have two arms, one at Wareham and another one in Dorset as well, to serve the needs of a small harbour. The connection to the Avon was actually going to be now onto the Kennet and Avon Canal near the town of Bradford-on-Avon at Woodford. We're going to move on from here now to find another remnant of the Dorset and Somerset Canal here in Somerset. Well, I do hope you can hear me above the sound of the running water. It's beautiful. That down there is the wonderful Mells River, which we have come across before when I did my monthly vlog from the village of Mells. I'm going to have time to visit Mells again today, but it's a lovely village. Again, I'll put the link to that Mells vlog at the end of this video. But hereabouts in this beautiful and very quiet village, well, it's actually a hamlet known as Murtry, M-U-R-T-R-Y. It's not actually marked to the map. There are, I think, Murtry Farm is marked and Murtry Common, but it doesn't say anything about Murtry itself. But here, I'm just off a very narrow road which leads to the village of Hadfield, over there, somewhere we'll be going to shortly. And the roundabouts here should be a 5-arched stone aqueduct, which I'm led to believe is completely intact and carried the Dorset and Somerset branch, or the Frome branch of the Dorset and Somerset Canal, over the Mells River. So let's have a look for it. So I've just come around the side of where I was just now and discovered what is known as the Murtry Aqueduct. It has 5 arches. This is one of them there, but this one is actually hollow and it doesn't go over any part of the river or the valley at all. But you can walk across part of it, and I think then we'll be able to get back round to the river and then back look along towards the aqueduct itself. But it's a remarkable survivor hill built of solid Mendip limestone, and it's in really excellent condition, which would have carried our Frome branch of the Dorset and Somerset Canal over the River Mells. So I'm now standing on top, or part of top, of the aqueduct, that bit where you saw the arches earlier on, so I'm just above there now, but you can't proceed any further. So the bit which would have carried the canal over the river section, over the River Mells, is over there, through the undergrowth and the shrubbery. But we can make our way down towards the riverbank, and we should be able to look back and then see the remaining 3 arches of the aqueduct, which I do believe are complete. Remember when we were looking at the Vobster Canal up there in Herefordshire and also in Worcestershire, we had those couple of aqueducts there. I think both of them had actually been bombed as target practice during and after World War II, and they're in a very parlous state. But this one is looking really magnificent here on one of our Looking for a Lost Canal videos. So this is the Mertry Aqueduct in all its glory. Well, the 3 spans, the 3 arches that would have taken the Frome Branch of the Dorset and Somerset Canal over the River Mells, which is quite wide actually, and comes down with quite some force. I think it then heads into the River Frome, doesn't it, in Frome. And of course the canal would have carried on originally into Frome as well, where it would have linked up with the main line of the canal heading south from the Kennet and Avon down towards the Dorset coast. But there is a little bit of a twist to our story. Now I do apologise that the whole thing is quite difficult to see on this side. For one thing, it's in the shade, but it also is very heavily overgrown, so it's very, very difficult to photograph. And I do apologise for that. You can just make out one of the arches there. You might be able to make out a reflection of the water that's heading underneath on this section of it, but it is a bit difficult, but it is good to see it anyway. So it's a very, very strong survivor. What wasn't a survivor though was the original plans from William Bennett, because he came across considerable land ownership opposition of the county of Somerset. Now remember, he was going to link up to the Kennet and Avon at Bradford-on-Avon, which was fine, Woodford, but in the southerly direction, getting around down to Poole was a little more troublesome, and also the finance wasn't really forthcoming. And so they then planned to terminate the canal, and this is really quite odd, beside a road near Sturminster Newton. Well, why there? Well, I don't really know. I think the plan was any goods heading south to the coast could have got to Sturminster Newton and then could have been taken on via road to one of the ports around Poole, that area. But it does seem odd to go to the expense of building a canal all the way from the Kennet and Avon heading south, just to leave it a few miles short from the channel itself. Well, there's still more lots to uncover here on Looking for a Lost Canal in the beautiful county of Somerset, including a lot of engineering works on a place called Barrow Hill. Now, if you did watch my second Somersetshire coal canal video, I talked a lot there about a particular type of lock called the Kyson lock. So not one with like gates that you normally expect to see on the canal, but a lift lock to get it up a height. Well, they had a similar arrangement here, and they listened to the engineer on the Somersetshire Coal Canal. Now there, Robert Weldon was using those, well, it's almost like wooden coffins, if you like, to put in the vessels that were going to go up and along the Somersetshire Coal Canal. Now Fussell, who was an entrepreneur in this part of Mells, in fact he had lime kilns built along the Mells Valley, much else asides, he got to hear of what Robert was doing a little bit further to north on the Somerset Coal Canal, and he wanted to do something similar. But he was also aware of what James Green was doing on the Grand Western Canal, also in Somerset. I've done a video on that, looking at the 9 Head locks near the town of Wellington. So yeah, you want to check that one out. But he adapted them, so he was taking a bit of what Robert was doing and a bit of what James was doing, so having a look and see what he could do on Barrow Hill himself. So let's go and head over towards Barrow Hill now. Well, let's change the camera over now. I've parked up in a village called Great Elm. I need a bit of a hike to where we need to go because there's no parking near it. It's near the Collier's Way though, which we've come across before, which is a route, a cycle and walking route making the use of the old Radstock railway line. We'll have a quick look at that in a bit. But this, I've just spotted this, nothing to do with canals. It's an old well just in the side of the road here at Great Elm. It's now a bit overgrown, but we need to make our way that way, and then we're going to turn off till we join up with the old railway line, and then we're going to strike up onto Barrow Hill to see what remains of our Dorset and Somerset Canal. Sorry for the funny angle, it's just that the sun's always in the wrong direction, giving me lens flare. Now I don't know if the track that I'm walking up at the moment is part of the inclined plane that would have been our route. It's not very clear, and I've no idea what we're going to find on our route either today. This footpath, which is just up, just to the north of the railway track bed, which is now the Sustrans track, is rather overgrown. So this is going to be quite an adventure. Whether I'll find anything, well, remains to be seen. Keep viewing and then you'll find out if I can uncover anything here on the edge of Barrow Hill. Now as we walk up here, just to tell you a little bit about the legacy of the Dorset and Somerset Canal. Now if you remember that when we did the Vobster Canal, there was a blue plaque at the aqueduct at Little Hereford, right next to the Shropshire-Worcestershire border there. And there is a trust to look after some of the legacy of, well, all of the legacy of the Vobster Canal. Now here it's a little bit different. There is, or rather there was, a website. There is a trail leaflet, in fact, which I think was written back in 1995, and I'll include a link to it in the description of today's video. And I don't think it's been updated since then. There is quite a bit of information, and I'll tell you a bit more about how I researched this video. It wasn't all from that website, from lots of other different places, which I'll reference in the description. And I'm not sure it's been updated, so I'm not sure if that trust that looks after the Devon and Somerset Canal, or the legacy of this branch, the Frome Branch, still exists. If you do know, please drop a comment below if you're watching this. Be nice to have a little bit more pointers, signposting, that kind of thing, but obviously it comes down to cost and volunteers, as is the case with all these types of things. Now the other strange thing about this Barrow thing here and hill on the line of our Frome arm of the Dorset Somerset Canal is why. What I mean is, why did they need to build the canal up over the top of Barrow Hill? Because the railway takes a flatter route following the contour. So you would have thought that the canal, or rather the railway, would have built on later on the line of the canal, because it was the flattest route, like we've seen before on the Herefordshire and Gloucestershire Canal, of course, with the branch to, or the line to Ledbury. But no, he went up here, and I have no idea why. The only thing I can think of, I can't find anything in the notes, and I'll tell you about the notes in a minute, is that there was a colliery further at the top. Now, was it to go up here? I just can't help thinking how much more expense would have it to have got Canals using a lift, some kind of Kyson device, up this hill, Barrow Hill, here in Somerset. Your thoughts are most welcome, please, in the comments below. So as you can see, we are gaining some height now. Just make out the railway track down there with that line of trees. That's the railway line to Radstock. In fact, that's looking in the direction towards the town of Frome here in Somerset, and we're going uphill following the line of the canal. Now I suspect, and I don't know for certain, that our canal would have been coming up here in the line of this hedge, although I haven't found any evidence, any kind of engineering bits and pieces as yet. The other odd thing about the Dorset and Somerset Canal, unlike other old canals, like when we looked at Vobster, you can see evidence of them on the OS map. You can see embankments and cuttings, and sometimes it does actually say course of old canal. There's nothing at all, not one mention. It doesn't mention the aqueduct, it doesn't mention the wall, it doesn't mention the route, and it's very, very difficult to trace the route of this former Frome branch of it. Now this, although this probably doesn't look like much to you on the side of this hillside in a remote corner of the county of Somerset, but I do think that this is one of the lift positions that Fussell put in. And there are 5 of them, apparently, and a couple of them were tested out to see if they would work. And I've got a feeling there's one here, so kind of here, which is literally just a depression in the ground. There may be some bits of masonry in there, but it's completely overgrown for me to examine that. The other side of that, in fact, there's nothing, so there's no depression on the other side. It goes into mature grassland pasture there, and I think that's our line. So you can see this old fence line here. So you can clearly see that's denoting something. That's not been put in by the farmer, denoting a line there. And where you see those trees are, which recently been planted, there's a couple of oak trees that have been recently planted there. That's the line of our canal, I do believe. So I got a feeling there might be something when we get to the top of this hill. Now I think the route of our canal doesn't go to the very top of this hill. I'm standing above it, almost at the top of the moment. There's a gate here, or stile should I say, which I'm about to go through, which hopefully should follow the line of our canal. I think it's curving round there, so it's kind of doing that and then flowing off to there, down that side. So we'll continue following it and see what we get. So I think our canal's actually in a ditch there, just the other side of that barbed wire fence with the trees and little blackberry bushes, so it's just in there, just as a depression in the ground. Well, sadly on the top of Barrow Hill I've come across a big problem. Well, there's that partridge just gone flying across there with those horses. No, that's not the route of our canal. That's the route of the footpath. And unfortunately that's the way the footpath goes. But our canal route is over here. Now it's completely fenced off, and I'm not going across there because that's clearly now private property. But I think our canal is over there, and probably by that big tree there, and it's making its way around the top of the hill over there. So unfortunately I can't see any more of the Barrow Hill excavations. But before we leave this site, I'll tell you a little bit more about what was probably here. Now before I do that though, I'll tell you where the information for today's videos come from and the research that I've done. It's mainly come from Charles Hadfield's books, Canals in the Southwest. Got a copy of that at home. It's a minefield, well, absolute mine of information about canals in the West Country, further part of the West Country. I think it covers most in Somerset and pretty much everything in Devon and Cornwall, a little bit in Dorset. So it covers a lot, including some very obscure ones. So it mentions about this, it covers a bit about this. The other piece of information I used was a book I've referenced before here on the Lost Canals series. It's a book literally called Lost Canals, which I bought actually from Joan Tucker's bookshop in Stroud in the middle of the 1970s, and I think that was the year it came out, it was published. However, at some point I lost my copy in the early 1980s, and I picked up a copy again a couple of years ago in one of the Cotswold Canals bookshops. I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was probably the one at Brimscombe, by Brimscombe Port there. And I think I got it for the bargain price of £1. It's now long out of print, but we probably got it from websites like Abe Books, etc. And I'll see if I can find the ISBN and put that in the description as well. But it described exactly what you could see on the ground of 1975. But of course, that was 50 years ago, and land management and ownership has changed a lot, fences, etc. has changed a lot since then. It was very good at pinpointing where we were at the start of the video, and finding that wall was excellent, and also for referencing the Mertry aqueduct, which isn't marked on the ice map. And if you don't know where it is, it's really hard to spot. And I'll include all details in today's video with the map link and all the other things you need if you want to check it out for yourself. But as I say, it says you can see lots on Barrow Hill, but I think it's probably more over that way. But of course we can no longer trek over that way. However, all is not lost, because I'm going to return to my car. We have lots more things to see at a place called Vobster and in Coleford. So while I've got this depression in the ground here, which I suspect is one of the 5 markers of the lift, just tell you a little bit about how James Hadfield thinks it works. Now, Fussell, was it James Fussell? I've forgotten his first name, I'll put it in below. That was the entrepreneur in the Wells Valley, all around Vollisvale, all around that kind of thing with his kilns and all that. He spoke to James Green from the Grand Western Canal with his lifts at Ninehead and the other lifts along the route down to Tiverton. And this here, which would have been one of the site of one of the lifts, there would have been a wall. Now, the wall is no longer here, it's probably collapsed inwards. There's lots of large slabs of limestone, which kind of indicates that was what was in this area. How did it work? Well, if you've seen the Somersetshire Coal Canal, you know about caissons, but it worked in a slightly different way. It actually had casters. So you imagine a coffin with casters not underneath the coffin, but on the side of the coffin. So the coffin is actually, for want of a better expression, with the vessel, the water vessel, inside it would be lifted up against the wall. So it'd be pulled up by chains, and you'd have those casters, like at the bottom of your bed, pulling it up against that wall to enable it to go up and down with chains. And there was a separate water chamber, which again probably was a bit further over there, which was filled with water, and it as a counterbalance, so the water ran out of that and then it pulled the chains up and down. So quite a complicated engineering process. As I say, it was tested here where I am now, Barrow Hill, but it was never put into full commercial use because, as we know, this branch was never completed, neither was the main line of the Dorset and Somerset Canal here on Barrow Hill. Well, I've just had a thought. Now, you know that railway bridge you saw earlier carrying the Radstock Frome Railway? I'm just by that at the moment. I'm standing on what is now the new Sustrans path, although it's not completely opened yet. And I think our canal was here. Don't forget the railway did not exist when the canal existed. You see those gates there, the one on the right? I think our canal went along here, the other side of the fence, over here. And then you can see a depression in the ground here. You see that? Following the contour around here, going round that way. Don't forget this bit is the embankment of the railway, so that embankment wouldn't have been there, not properly, when the canal was constructed. But I think that is the line of our Dorset and Somerset Canal heading towards Frome, where we started our video today. And what's more amazing, I think, is that I think water actually sits here in sections, so you can see part of the canal bed there, and it's making its way. Suddenly it's going to curve around to the left there, isn't it? Where those trees are, I think that is the bed of the canal, because it's rather damp in that lowest section of the contour, encouraging tree growth. Of course, those trees and shrubs wouldn't have been there when the Dorset and Somerset Canal was constructed, or rather the Frome arm. Wow, so that's our very clearest line we've had yet of the canal's route. Wow, it all becomes clear from this vantage point here, just almost by the railway track. In fact, there's a plane just flying over the top of Barrow Hill. You can see the incline there as it makes its way with those trees and that like yellowy grass. And then lower down here, so there's Barrow Hill, there's the incline, and then the canal continued all the way along here, heading down there through the valley to Frome. Yes, I know, you wanted to know what the railway track bed looks like. So it has been cleared of track. Well, you can see a bit of a rail there. They've made a new feature. So there's a couple of picnic tables up there. I know this has nothing to do with our canal, but I thought you might be interested. But the other line, so this is the line heading down to Radstock. There is some track here in situ. You see that through the fence there. But not only that, there's a lot more track in situ over here, which is where the line branches off, heading down towards that quarry's name, which I can never pronounce, which is just over there. And just beyond that is a tunnel. Let's have a quick look. I didn't expect to catch a freight train today heading towards the quarry. Obviously it's empties, ready to fill up again and come back out the tunnel there. So there it goes in there. There's a 10 mile an hour restriction on that line, but it just shows you that line is very much still active here of the spur of the former Radstock to Frome railway line here in Somerset. Anyway, let's continue our adventures looking for our canal. So I'm just north of the village of Mells, a very pretty Mells village we've been to before. And I come back up to the route of the former Radstock to Frome Railway, which is just down there. So bear in mind again that was built after our canal. Now I think the route of our canal was in this area. There was depression. In fact, there is a bit of a cutting in the woodland here. And if you look at the map, I'll insert it now, it says it's called Conduit Lane and Conduit Hill. And I'm thinking Conduit, is that related to our canal? I don't know for sure. There is a bridge. The lane goes over the railway on the bridge. That's nothing to do with our canal, of course. But I think our canal was here in this area called Conduit, just to the north of the village of Mells. So this is an external outside of the woodland view, if you like. So that's our bridge. This is Conduit Hill with the bridge there carrying or going over the former railway track, which is now the Sustrans route to Radstock. And that's where I've just come out from here, from the footpath, which is where the canal once went. Now I think there must have been a bridge here, and that's what the guidebooks say. So if that was the route of our canal over in there, the road pre-existed the railway, so it must have gone underneath the road here, hereabouts. But unfortunately, I've yet to find any evidence of that bridge. Side of the road to where I was in that wood showing you the cutting, you can still make out very, very clearly a depression in the ground there. And the bridge opening would have been, well, round about there looking back. And I've tried to look back in that direction, but I can't see any work there, no portal of a bridge at this point. There's certainly nothing on the sides of the road here, so probably it was infilled at some point. And of course the other thing to bear in mind is when this railway was constructed, and I can't remember the exact year I put it in now, it would have mucked up with the earthworks of the canal in this area, because the canal kind of crossed over the line of the railway route, which, as I say, came afterwards. So yeah, bridge here at Conduit Hill, but somewhere underneath the road, round about there. Anyway, we're going to continue on now towards the hamlet of Vobster. Couple of things of interest in this area. I'm at Vobster, or between Vobster by the pub and Vobster Cross. There's a canal bridge here, but also is this. What is this? You're probably thinking it's not a canal, it's a railway, but one we've not come across before. So this railway came off the main line between Radstock and Frome. What was the main line between Radstock and Frome? Now got that stub, that's where you saw the train going into the tunnel to Whatley Quarry. This was the line, so heading up there, heading up to the line. So the line is in that direction, and it went south from here, down in that direction. I'm at a Vobster here at the moment, and you can see it clearly on the OS map marked saying disused line, although there's not a right of way of it. The public footpath is literally just there. I haven't crossed any over stiles, it's literally access onto the bank here, and it carries on down there, and I think it's called the Newbury Railway Line. Nothing to do with Newbury in Berkshire, but it served the Newbury collieries in this part of Somerset. So I think there's very, very little information about this line. So it would have been a single track mineral line, judging by the width of the embankment. It's only a very, very minor affair. Probably started off initially as a tramway. If I can find any more information on the Newbury Railway, I'll put it in in below, like I normally do. I think there was another one as well, which kind of ran parallel to it, both heading south, as did our canal. Now our canal is just above the railway, which is just over there. Oh, the other thing to note about our embankment there of our railway, our Newbury Railway, is that embankment is entirely made of colliery waste out of the Newbury collieries, I would imagine. We've certainly found something now. So this is our canal bridge here. So the canal would have gone directly underneath there. That's the road heading from Vobster Cross into Vobster. Vobster is down that way, and the canal goes straight through there. It has been blocked up in years, but it's still in very good condition. So yeah, you can't make out the other side of it. It's all completely blocked up there, but goes straight through there. One canal bridge here at Vobster. You can actually make out the course of the canal route very, very clearly, though, here on the opposite side. And that is right down there. Yeah, so that's great to see that very, very clearly, the line of our Dorset and Somerset Canal branch here, which never got completed. In fact, they did most of the branch to Frome, but it was about a mile short, 1.75 miles in total. I can't remember the exact cost. I'll put that in below, that it was budgeted for. I think it was around about £320,000, but it blew that budget and they ran out of money. Hence, the canal branch never opened, neither did the main line. But yeah, that's our canal along that way, and that way is our canal road bridge, road canal. So we're going to make our way to our final place now, which is Coleford here in Somerset. I've never been to Coleford before. So we're going to head over there, where there should be a pack horse bridge over the canal. So we'll have a look at that as our final ventures here, looking for a lost canal here on West Country Wanderings. So behind me here we have this wonderful pack saddle bridge which goes over the Mells River, which we've seen before, and I think originally they were planning to put the canal over the top of here. There's a line of it. The other side of Coleford village though, or just up the way along this footpath, there should be something more remarkable, and that's the Coleford aqueduct. But also in Coleford was a tunnel. It lies in private land, and I think it is near the Methodist church. If you know Coleford at all, you'll be familiar with the fact that it's in that area, but I don't think I'll be able to get access to that today. But I'll just head over this way. So that's our route going on that way, and it kind of sort of goes on an embankment, but it's not very, very clear. Let's see if we can get over to our aqueduct to finish today's video here. So that over there is the aqueduct, that is Coleford Aqueduct, which would have carried the Frome Branch of the Dorset and Somerset Canal over the top there. Just imagine tugboats, and maybe one day it could have been carrying narrowboats along it, but alas, of course, it was never completed and never actually did its work. As I say, there is a tunnel in this area. There are a couple of other features which unfortunately I don't have time to scramble through. In fact, it's been very difficult just to find this, the Coleford Aqueduct. It's a lot harder than you'd think. I thought, well, that'll be easy to find. And it's not. It's very, very difficult. Coleford's actually an interesting place. It's an old Somerset coal mining village. It's worth a wander in its own right. I think it's got a church here. So near the Methodist church, which I've not been able to find, is where the tunnel is. And it's actually quite difficult to visualise the route that the canal took, or would have taken, going through the village as well, because it's all a bit higgledy-piggledy. You have the Packhorse Bridge and tunnel and aqueduct. It's not obvious, like we saw at Barrow Hill, because normally I'm used to canals following rivers and following railway lines in like a contour in the V of a valley. Not here. It goes up and down and left and right and all over the place for reasons I don't fully understand, because it would have added to the cost certainly to have built that. I mean, that would have been extremely expensive to have built that and added on to the capital cost of the entire project, as well of course as the tunnel in this village as well. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this wander here looking for a lost canal, another canal, the Dorset and Somerset Canal. Unfortunately, I have run out of time. There is another feature in a neighbouring village called Ebford, which is where they started construction. That's about another mile further to the west or so. You can make out some embankments there, and I think there's part of an aqueduct there as well. I'm not sure as if I can find a photograph of that from the net and put that in now. But yeah, so we found a few things. I mean, we found that wall. We found certainly some depressions on the way going up to Barrow Hill, which would have been the original lifts. You could certainly see the line underneath the railway track bed there, or curving around where those trees were. And yeah, we found the Packhorse Bridge and also this amazing aqueduct here as well. Oh, we've also found that canal bridge where the canal went underneath the road, didn't we, at Vobster? So I found something else interesting in Vobster. I don't know Vobster very well, and it was in somebody's garden. It looks like a locomotive shed. I'll insert it now. Thoughts please. Is that linked to that railway we found, that Newbury Railway? I've no idea, because that was further up the contour gradient, so I don't think the locomotives would have gone there. I need to do some more research on that, but I'll put it in. I just find it a curiosity. Nothing to do with canals. Anyway, hope you found this canal series video interesting here on West Country Wanderings. Hope to see you on the channel again. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye. Hello again, little bonus feature for you here on West Country Wanderings. I don't normally do this sort of thing. Yes, curiosity did get the better of me. I found the chapel, or Methodist church. It's over there. It's no longer a Methodist church. It's a private property, so we're not going anywhere near there, having renovations done there. We're at the back of it. Don't worry, I'm on a public footpath. According to the notes, there isn't a public footpath here. So whether it's a new public footpath, I don't know. So I'm not as in theory should be able to see anything of what I'm showing you now, but I can. The route of our canal. So it goes underneath, in a tunnel underneath the chapel, and it comes out. I don't think I can get to the portal, but I can tell you exactly where it comes out. Over here. There, so there is the line of our portal, or the canal route, should I say. So underneath that tree there. So the tunnel portal, it was under there, but it's been filled in now, so we can't actually see it. But what you can see though is the line of our canal. This is the first time I've been able to do that in the village of Coleford. It's got very confusing when you've seen that aqueduct, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense about where it was. So that aqueduct that you saw at the end, imagine when I was looking to the camera, imagine looking to your left. You carried on with that, you'd entered the portal of Coleford Tunnel, one end of that aqueduct, going underneath the chapel, which is just there, coming out here, and then going in a line on a curve. Now, this is the interesting bit. It goes along there, and it kind of disappears into the undergrowth. But that's not the end. You can still make it out. You can now, from this viewpoint, make it out extremely clearly. I'll just turn the camera around and show you. Our canal is in the undergrowth, all those trees there. Now you should be able to make out another clump of trees coming up into the middle of the screen now. There's about 6 of them, I think, in front of some houses. Yeah, so just there, those trees there. In front of that is our canal route, and then it continues along here in the landscape, clear as day. Our engineered Dorset and Somerset Canal continuing its journey on along there towards the town of Frome. And then it goes into that wood. So that's fantastic to see that. As I say, curiosity got the better of me. I'm thinking, I must be able to find the Methodist chapel. But as I say, it's no longer open, but that's where the tunnel was, where it came out. And that's the line of our Dorset and Somerset. Cheers now. Bye-bye.